Hey, welcome to And Cory podcast. This is part 2 of the interview with Chef Adam Kreisel. On this one we discuss family, friends, food, the charity organization he's involved with, 3 Squares, and we even talk a little bit about Burning Man. So, for your listening pleasure, this is Chef Adam Kreisel, part 2, Electric Boogaloo, on And Cory. Food's unique in that way. It really is. It's definitely an art form, but there's a lot of people that don't like certain types of art. But everybody has to eat.
You can like art, you can view art, you can see art, you can do all these other things. There's only one type of art that you actually make you.
Yeah, you experience.
You make it a part of you.
Oh, right.
It goes in you and stays in you for in whatever form. There is no possible way you can have an experience that's more intimate than that.
Right.
Other things may imprint differently, but there's no more intimate experience that you can have. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
That you can have than sticking something in your gullet.
Right.
And taking something that's outside of you, made by someone else's hand,
right,
and making it an actual energetic, functioning component of you. That's a super cool thing. I geek out on that thought process constantly. Which is why I'm always walking up to people and being like, "Here, stick this in your face."
Stick this in your mouth, man. And I'm the guy going, "Yeah, I'll do it." So I'm lucky enough to know the answer to the next question, that you do have children. You have a daughter.
I do indeed.
And she is a princess.
She kicks ass.
Yeah. How do you think having your daughter has changed your life?
I am abundantly cognizant of what a complete moron I am. My only responsibility, as far as I can see it, is to make her like 50 times better than I ever have been or have the capacity to be. Which, to be frank, I mean, you know her well enough to know she's already more or less there.
She's awesome.
I mean, it's. I don't know that it's changed me in any way in the most basic sense, other than to enhance all of the things that I know I need to be.
Yeah.
As a person. I am even if I don't execute them
no,
well exactly all the time, I am incredibly conscious of how much responsibility I have to teach her, whether as a result of my own faults or as a result of my own as a result of my own talents, how she needs to walk through the world.
Yeah.
Or at least impress upon her the way I think she should walk through the world. I mean, ultimately she's going to decide what she wants. But I think about that, on an almost minute-by-minute basis.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Absolutely. What does the word family mean to you? Because I know that your friends are close. And
yeah, my friends are my family. I mean, family to me means, truly, family to me means that I can say things to you that you may not want to hear, but that I believe you need to.
Yeah.
And that you can do the same to me. And I expect that. I expect it of my family, and more importantly, I expect it of my friends. My closest friends, I don't expect them to be afraid of me. And I know, I mean, I have a relatively large personality, and I express it in a large way, and oftentimes that makes people, whether it's girlfriends or my daughter or whomever, a little bit hesitant to say things to me or to express things in the most open and honest way. And I expect that of my family and of my friends, that if I'm doing something, if I'm being a complete turd, if I need to hear something, not because I believe I need to hear it, but because you believe I need to hear it, that you're going to tell me what I need to hear. That to me is family. That's how you act, because you say that to me because I need to hear it, regardless of whether it's going to affect the relationship that you and I have.
Right.
And I proffer that to my friends. I have had friends whose relationships, with whom my relationship has devolved because I told them things or said things to them that I believed they needed to hear. And regardless of what the aftermath was in terms of our friendship,
right,
everything I've seen in terms of the effect of telling somebody those things and the way it bears out on their life and who they become, leads me to believe that it's the right way to live and to approach people.
I agree with you 100%, because I've had similar situations with my best friend saying stuff to me, and he still is my best friend. And one of the main reasons he is because he said those things.
Right.
You know, he's pointing out flaws and stuff like that
because
fixed.
you needed to hear them, and
Right,
if you can't hear those things from the people that you're closest to, you can't friggin' hear them from anybody.
Right. How do you think that you've influenced your kid in the most?
Hopefully, I hope that I've taught her that being a complete and utter doofus is totally okay, in public or otherwise. Her mom tends to hedge against that mentality, but I do everything in my power to teach her to the contrary.
Yeah.
I want that mentality I talked to you about earlier about questioning and learning and wanting to know things. And whether you go out and seek the knowledge or it's just a matter of being okay with seeing a person who's this color or dresses this way or does this thing and being like, oh, hey, cool, that person does that thing or is this color or dresses that way, and not thinking anything of it other than, hey, cool, look at this new thing. I want her, because that's the way you squeeze the most out of the world. Right? I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know how long she's going to live. Hopefully she's going to outlast me by a long time. But regardless, I have no control over what the grand scheme of the world has in mind for me or for her or for anybody else. So my hope is that I can teach her to try and squeeze as much energetically out of whatever she sees on a daily basis as is humanly possible.
Yeah. How do you think she describes you as a parent?
Intense, goofy, fun, maybe a little scary.
Yeah.
I would guess.
How do you describe yourself as a parent? Same way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Which one of your parents are you more similar to?
Probably more like my dad.
Yeah. Unfortunately, me too.
Yeah, and I would say both fortunately and unfortunately.
No, I mean, yeah.
I mean, my temper, as much as I try to mitigate it, my sort of emotional intensity, that in many respects comes from my dad.
Yeah. I can relate to that, for sure. I spent a lot of time justifying that shit, and that's actually something I've been working on for a couple of years now.
Yeah, me too.
Who was your first love?
Vivian Holtzman.
Is that like a girl you knew?
She was a girl that I dated for a little bit in college.
Yeah.
And she's still a great, great friend. We had this super, super intense relationship, affection for each other, and we were in college. I was a junior, she was a sophomore. We had no idea how to handle it.
Yeah.
Christ, I say that as though now I have any idea
right,
how to
exactly.
handle it. And of course I don't, because I'm an idiot.
Nobody does.
But it was super, super, super intense.
Yeah.
And she's awesome. Yeah.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
No. I don't know. I guess I say no because I'm such a cynical asshole. But
I say no too.
I don't. I only say no. I say no for myself.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not that I don't believe in love at first sight in general.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in it for me because I have to have a real. I have to get at the bones of somebody.
Yeah.
To be able to have that kind of love. And it doesn't necessarily mean I need a long time to be able to get at their bones.
Right.
But I still need to be able to do it. And I don't know if I really believe that you can do that at first view.
I agree 100%.
With anybody. I just don't.
And I might have answered the question differently before I was married. But it takes, for me, in the position I'm in, it took time for me to even understand what love is. You know what I mean? So I had an idea of what it was. There's infatuation, lust, stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's not it for me, anyway. I'm not going to ask you if you've ever had your heart broken because you're alive. Who was your biggest crush?
Alison McGrath.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was my first. She was really, I mean, if I think about... Can I tell you a story?
Please do.
Okay. So, I think, okay, I've had crushes on this and that girl. If I think about what a crush is, she was my first true crush. She's a little bit older than me. She was a hostess at a restaurant that I worked at in San Francisco. And she and I have a great friendship and a great relationship. And she knows that she has functioned in that capacity for me. And we were a little bit crushy on each other, but she was much more my crush than I was hers.
Yeah.
But the story that I want to tell you very quickly is: did you ever see the Brady Bunch episode where Bobby Brady kisses Millicent, and it's his first like major girl crush, and he kisses her, and the fireworks they go into Bobby Brady's head, and the fireworks are going off, and it's like full 4th of July. We had our Christmas party, our holiday party at Oritalia, and everybody was jamming. I mean, Oritalia was what taught me what a restaurant can be at its height. I mean, just this intense box of love and lust and trust and intensity and anger and destructive capability and all these things. So we're having our holiday party, and we're closed up, and we're in this. There's this mess of people. A bunch of us are sitting on the pass, on the expediting pass. We had an open kitchen, and I hop down off of it, and I'm standing in the middle of the area in front of the kitchen and in front of the pass. And there was a sprig of mistletoe hanging from the ceiling there that was hung there for that purpose, to kiss under the mistletoe. And I'm standing there and I'm talking to a couple of friends, and I start, and I was there I was there in this spot for like probably 15 minutes, and Allison had been up front at the hostess stand, and you could see across the room, but you had to walk around to get to where to where this was.
Yeah.
And apparently I was standing under this thing, and I didn't have any idea. And I was talking to some friends, and I started to move away to go get myself a drink or something. Meanwhile, Allison had been trying to push her way through the entire crowd to get to me before I moved. She's like, "Oh, Saddam, don't go!" And she pushed me back under the mistletoe.
Yeah.
So that she could kiss me under the mistletoe. And dude, I kid you not, I saw the Bobby Brady fireworks. I remember literally standing there under the mistletoe and being like even after she pulled her lips off of mine,
yeah.
And I was just entranced.
Yeah.
To the point where two of my friends were like, dude,
wake up.
I'm like, huh, what? Wow.
That's adorable.
Wow. It was amazing.
Oh, that's great. I love that. That's an awesome story.
And she I mean she knows full well about that moment. It was amazing.
That's some of these questions I have here are just ridiculous. Like I'm not going to ask you this, so don't answer it. But I'm just telling you. Do you have any regrets regarding your love life?
Oh my God.
Who the hell doesn't? I guess virgins. Well, that's a regret right there. So yeah. What is the most special way that you have been shown that you're loved?
The most special way that I've been shown that I've been loved?
Yeah.
Does it have to be a specific thing?
No.
I think in the general sense, my friendships.
Yeah.
I have an abundance of friendships that I say this, I like to think I've done enough to justify them. I don't think I deserve to have the massive quantities of love that I get from other people.
Yeah.
I just don't. And that shows me that I'm loved all the time, even if I gripe about it or say something stupid or do something to not deserve it.
Yeah.
I have beds. I can go to virtually every state in this country and probably 40 other countries and have a bed to sleep in.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All because of these relationships and friendships that I've maintained and cultivated but that's a two-way street, right?
Yeah,
I mean, people have to believe that you're worth being friends with for that to be the case, and it always strikes me as odd that anyone would give a goddamn about about me, but somehow I've snowed them.
Yeah. So, on political stuff, what do you consider to be the most significant political event that has occurred in your lifetime?
Wow. I don't know if it's a political event. I mean, it's a socio-political event. I would say amongst the things that are most significant, the legalization of gay marriage.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was legalized by a case that began here.
Yeah.
And that case happens to be two friends of mine.
Really?
Yeah. Because those guys
fantastic.
are because Derek and Moody are a big part of the food community here.
Okay.
I think that's a huge a thing of huge significance.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would definitely consider that a political event. It shouldn't be, but it was.
Yeah. No. I think it is, and as stupid as it sounds, I think the legalization or semi-legalization of pot.
That's not stupid.
Is well, I think it's a little trite. I think that thought process is emblematic of a lot of other things. I also, on the flip side, I think, unfortunately, and I hate to beat on it because it's an obvious one,
right.
But shit, man, the election of the election of Barack Obama, followed by the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You can't. If you devalue the significance of that in any way in terms of what it means in the grander scheme of things, I think. Let's put it this way. I link the two because when Barack Obama was elected, I felt like, holy shit, man!
Here we go.
This is a sea change.
Yeah.
This is what I've been waiting to see. And there were a combination of things, some of which were his fault, some of which were the fault of the electorate, some of which were the fault of Congress, however you want to term it, that I thought we'd gotten past that petty bullshit.
Right.
And in fact, not only have we not gotten past the petty bullshit, but we're still dealing with it in such a systemic way that it's hard to believe. That being said, I have to say that for whatever it's worth, whatever pain it's going to take to go through it, and I hope, to God that it doesn't linger and maintain, there is an extent to which I think the election of Donald Trump had to happen. Yeah. Because everybody that felt a certain way when Barack Obama got elected and went, oh man, you know what? We're here.
Yeah.
We made it. We did what we needed to do, and started kind of resting on their laurels and believing that all the jackasses in the world had finally either turned the corner or just become so marginalized that they didn't matter anymore.
Right.
That was brought into stark relief as soon as Trump took office.
Right.
It was all of a sudden you're like, wow.
Holy shit.
There are a-holes everywhere.
Everywhere.
And they've just been... And listen, man, I mean, I don't feel good about anybody feeling marginalized.
Right, no.
Feeling like their voice can't be heard. But when a group of people that are already privileged in a way that they don't respect or understand decide that they're marginalized just because somebody else or another group of people stopped being marginalized as much, that's a fucking huge problem.
Yeah.
And if anything good comes of his election, it is the understanding across the board that all these problems that we might have thought we'd fixed or at least been on the way to fixing are not even remotely close.
Not close.
And that if you're going to do this, you got to step up to the plate and do it. And it can't just be the activists, and it can't just be the people who think a particular way, and it can't just be the people who have the gumption or the time or the money or the heart assets. It's got to be everybody getting on the page of being right and being cool and being okay and understanding how you're supposed to fucking live on a planet with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and that's one thing. As we record this, it's November 2017. It's a year. We at least got 3 more. And the one thing that I hope happens from this...
I hope not, but...
What? What's that? Oh.
I hope not at least 3 more.
No, I hope that's the end. But is the one thing that I hope happens is I'm from Oregon. And when I went on vacation this year to the Oregon coast, I had to drive through Portland. And I've never been a fan of Portland. I grew up in the country, but it's just the way it is. I was actually a bit fearful and starting to get angry just driving through there to the thought of protesters blocking traffic. is the one thing, and I was like, rather than just get mad and get frustrated about it, I start talking to my son about it while we're driving, and it's like, what I hope happens is that they start getting their priorities right and they start doing it in the correct way, that they're showing their message rather than screwing up their neighbor's commute.
It's interesting. Portland has started to has started to manifest some of that like hyper leftist San Francisco.
Yeah.
I've got the educational prerogative and moral mandate thing going on. It's a little off-putting. That's the part that it's the part about the whole process that I can't stand, because I see what happens now, right?
Right.
All the Trumpians, all the Roy Moores of the world, all the whomever. But then you turn around and you want, okay, so let's say that the thought processes, the moral thoughts, whatever, that are proffered by Michael Moore and Al Franken and any real sort of left-thinking members of the Senate.
Yeah.
Dianne Feinstein a little bit, but more so, they do as much damage to their own cause as anybody, because they get whiny and bitchy and entitled and think that, oh, I have the moral high ground here, and so I can talk this way, I can talk down in this way, I can condescend in this way, and that doesn't help the dialogue either.
No, exactly. No, I know that's kind of what I was getting at, is that people are taking they're so emotionally driven, and all people are. I mean, people like to pretend that it's just people on the left, but the fact is, it's the exact same thing. People
Nancy Pelosi, excuse me. I can't. She drives me friggin' nuts, because she takes every good issue and every good moral stance, and she politicizes it in such a juvenile way that the message that she's wanting to deliver, which typically is a pretty good message, is completely friggin' lost.
No, exactly.
And all it does is turn more people against the mentality of moral understanding and humanitarianism.
Right. And that's what protesters in the middle of the street blocking traffic when their neighbors are trying to go to work or come home does for me.
Right.
I'm not a very political person, but I know what I know what they want to say, and they're not saying
and it's not being said in the way that can be
they need to get
ingested
organized and get real.
Yep.
But that's what I hope.
I'm right there with you.
So, okay.
Come on, what do you got? Come on, man. What's next?
Which political figure do you most admire?
I hate to say it, but I kind of admire Bernie.
Bernie Sanders?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I admire him because he says what he believes.
Yeah.
And he says what he believes is right. And I think, honestly, that a lot of what he says, to a certain extent, is right. I think he gets lost in his grumpy old manness.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But a lot of what he says is right. Who else?
Of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah.
I think even though his execution was piss poor, Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
As much as I hate to say it. I mean, the guy, his thought process was right, I think, and his understanding of what the world needed to be was right. I think there's a certain extent to which Bill Clinton had that right. I mean, he had the human faults that everybody does.
Right.
But I think generally speaking, the guy, his heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Donald Trump's heart is in the right place.
No, absolutely not. Even people that voted for him, I don't know that how they could pretend that it is.
I mean, JFK is such an easy one to say.
But it's still worth saying. Lincoln, of course.
But these are all American figures. Honestly.
How about Justin Trudeau?
How about Nelson Mandela?
Oh, how about Nelson Mandela? Absolutely. Yeah. Which political figure do you least admire?
Trump has definitely got to be up there.
Yeah.
Erdogan in Turkey doesn't, current day, doesn't do much for me. That guy, I have a real worry that he's like Trump with a brain.
Oh God.
That's
He's scary.
It's like authoritarianism, but with a little bit of understanding.
Yeah. Other than present day,
yeah.
Which historical era would you have liked to have lived in?
Oh, totally the 70s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was primed. I'm primed for disco.
Heck yeah, you're ready to disco at any moment.
Just by my hair alone.
What do you consider to be the most important war fought during your lifetime, or in all history?
The most important war, like physical war, like in the strictest sense?
Yeah.
I mean, in all history, I would say World War II has to be up there.
Right.
In my lifetime,
Operation Iraqi Freedom?
I honestly would say there's an extent to which I would say that.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than because it started a process. America's always been imperialistic, right?
Right.
And we've always been in the business of nation building or nation destroying. But it brought that war brought to a global stage in an era at the beginning of a new era of information delivery and proliferation.
Yeah.
The understanding for the rest of the world that not only did we feel we had the authority to march into any country anytime we wanted to, but that we didn't even have an idea of how to do it. And I think that entry made us a lot of enemies.
Oh, absolutely.
They may have existed beforehand, but they didn't feel the need to really voice it or express it in a physical way.
Yeah.
And I think that gave a lot of license to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
That are really insane and really stupid. And I can't, and the worst part is, I can't say that I can blame them in any way.
How could you?
Because we're a bunch of assholes.
Well, what gives us the right and not them?
Nothing.
Right. Have you ever fought for a political cause?
You know, to my shame, I can't really say that I have. I mean, I've been a part of some things, but I can't really say that I've ever fought for a political cause in the most sort of like intensive, self-sacrificing, heartfelt sense.
Yeah.
My political cause now has become and is becoming food.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. That is a political cause that you're involved in right now. I mean, what all are you doing? And I don't remember everything, but the Three Squares nonprofit that you're involved with. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I can tell you about the project, and I can, describe it, I guess, briefly, but the sort of the fact or the knowledge that's the underpinning of that is it is horrifying to me. I have a belief about food. I have a belief that since it's the only It's the most intimate relationship you can have, right? We talked about this already. You take something from somebody else's hand and you make it an actual functioning, energetic, physical component of you. There is no other act that you engage in as a human being outside of sex for which that's the case. That fact by itself should provide some justification for reverence towards the activity of eating. Right? It's not just shoveling something in your face. It's sustenance, and it means something. If you put crap in you, you become crappy. If you put good stuff in you, presumably you become well. The fact that we are as wealthy as we are as a nation, and that as many people in this country go hungry as they do, and not only that they go hungry, but that we have all these problems, all these things that we bitch about constantly, that everybody's like, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? Obesity, heart disease, autism, early childhood developmental problems, educational problems. All of these things begin in one place. Being able to sustain your life. Being able to eat. Being able to have clean drinking water. Being able to do the one thing, perform the one action that you have to perform every day, give or take, as a human being, as an organism, to live. Sticking something in your face that is nutritionally sound and hopefully as an ancillary benefit, because you have to do this mundane activity anyway, provides you some source of enjoyment or refreshment. The fact that we can't figure out how to allow everybody that lives here to gain the benefit of that simple task is so mind-boggling to me and so horrifying. I mean, you can see how I'm getting what I'm talking about. It pisses me off in a way that, and there's so much that fights against it.
That's like what? What would fight against it?
I mean, just the proliferation of big agribusiness. The amount of control that a handful of companies have over the food supply in this country, and what its nutritional content is, and how it's distributed, and where you can find it, and who can have it, is sickening. It's absolutely foul in the strictest, most morally indefensible sense. So, if there's a place to start, if there's a way to start the process of figuring out how to make that relationship more equitable, that's kind of where I am now. It's where I want to be spending my energies. And that obviously begets this project. So the nonprofit that I'm on the board of, and at some point in the not so distant future I will have to actually be removed from the board because I'm going to be salaried through the nonprofit, and you can't be on a 501(c)(3), you cannot be paid as a board member. Is that we are, without going into all the backstory, we are building a teaching kitchen to proliferate the programs that we started 5 years ago, which is to say, teaching kids, middle school age and up, from food insecure families, how to cook, how to fabricate, how to source, how to live, how to utilize what limited means they may have in the best and most efficient way. And in a way that, quite frankly, most of what they see perceptively, whether it be by advertising or otherwise in the day-to-day world, wants to convince them they don't have the opportunity to take hold of. And if you can get somebody early on in their life, before they're jaded, before they're cynical, before they believe that those things aren't accessible to them, then you can teach them that they are. Because the fact of the matter is, the belief that they aren't accessible to them is really more a belief than it is a reality.
Right.
So if we can get them early on in the process and say, hey, listen, first of all, these things are accessible to you. Second, if you have to spend your money anywhere, what little money you have, what little hard-earned money you have, forget the watch, forget the shoes, forget what you think you need. Spend it on this, because this is what's going to help you and save you money, earn you more money in every other aspect of your life. If money is the determinant, okay, let's call a spade a spade. If you're in this capitalistic world, and money is going, and what you have is going to determine not necessarily your happiness, but your ability to do the things you want to do.
Yeah.
You have to use whatever limited funds you have in the most efficient way possible. Well, I'm going to tell you that this is the most efficient way. Because if you want to have those things, and you want to have those opportunities, and you want to be the best version of you that you can possibly be, you're going to need to have this. You're going to need to have the right energy. You're going to need to have to not go to the hospital. You're going to need to not be sick. You're going to need to not fall asleep in class. You're going to need to have enough energy to outrun the jackass that's trying to jack you in the middle of the street. I mean, all those things,
right,
in whatever form they take, are affected by what you stick in your gullet. So I want to help you stick the right things in your gullet.
Heck yeah. Well, not only that, but then teach them how to make it themselves, right?
Well, and that's and from my standpoint, that's the best part of it. Yeah. Because I can only impart my knowledge. Cooking, unfortunately, and fabricating food is a tactile experience. I can talk to you about it, I can tell you about it, I can show you something about it.
Right.
But until you do it yourself,
get your hands in there.
It's unfortunate. It is just a basic fact that you can't know it and imprint it unless you're touching it and tasting it. But if I teach you the tabletop, that's the first time, dude, in 2.5 hours. If I teach you how to fabricate it, if I teach you how to touch it, if I teach you how to taste it, you then have the capacity to turn to your brother or your sister or your aunt or your uncle or your mom or your dad or whomever and teach them how to do that same thing.
Right.
And my knowledge then has an exponentially greater effect, because the act of imparting it on you has given you, and by the associative property, me, the ability to impart it on a whole host of people that I'm never going to see.
It'll spread.
And if I want to have the greatest effect, that's the way to do it.
Heck yeah. It's a noble cause.
Whatever, noble schmoble, man. I mean, it sucks. The fact that it has to be a cause,
right,
is the great shame of this country. It should be the great shame of this country. And the fact that nobody pays attention to it. Oh, prescription drugs are this cost and this bad, and oh, this and this and this. And the food supply, man, what do you stick in your friggin' body?
Right.
What is the baseline of all of it?
Right.
You have one action that you perform every day,
wow,
regardless of all of the other actions that you perform. And that is that you put something in your mouth and you chew it and you swallow it.
Well, what all is involved in this, though? I mean, as far as where can people find out more about the 3 Squares?
They can go on our website for the moment, which is being completely redeveloped.
Okay.
We're building a whole new website, but there's a small amount of explanation on there, which is 3squares.org, and it's 3 as in the number, so 3 SQUARES.org.
Okay.
And there is the beginnings of some explanation about what we do and why we do it on there that will be expanded greatly in the coming few months.
Okay, that's awesome. How's everything else going now that we kind of did your little biography? Now that we're caught up with Cucina. I know we kind of touched on that a little bit at the beginning.
Cucina's fine. I mean, it is what it is. It's always a work in progress. It's always morphing. I mean, it's my opportunity. It has been my opportunity to finally trade in on my reputation here.
Yeah.
Seeing as how I gained no financial or life comfort benefit from running restaurants for 10 years.
Can you explain a little bit what Cucina does as far? I know you're catering and consulting, but can you go into a little bit of that?
Yeah, I mean, so it's that. I do catered private events as small as 8 to 10 person in-home tasting menus and cooking classes, and up to about sort of 400 or so is roughly my top end in terms of the number of people. Excuse me. That is the types of things that I do run the gamut. I do benefits for nonprofits. I do corporate team building events. I do big, super cool, just random parties and events and fun one-offs. And you have to care about the food.
Yeah.
There's no point in hiring a guy like me.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't care about the food being an integral, if not the integral part of whatever experience you're creating. From a consulting standpoint, I mean, good or bad, I've been, I was involved in restaurants for 15 years, most of the more or less all fine dining, but I was involved in a lot of restaurant openings, and so I have a lot of knowledge of restaurant build out and facilities build out. I have a lot of knowledge of menu development and redevelopment. And so that tends to be a lot of what I do on the consulting side of things. I just helped my buddy open a new restaurant downtown here. And quite frankly, this is the Three Squares stuff is really becoming and will continue to become more and more the focus of what I do. I'm going to be drawing back my business and just being more selective about the events that I take. But the beauty of Cucina is that I still approach private events the same way I approach my restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still all my food. If I believe that what you're looking for is something that is either would sort of devalue the brand that I've created for myself, or that you're wanting something that someone else can provide at a lower price point, I'll always send people in a different direction, because I want to be true to why I cook and the food that I like to make and the things that I like to do. And I also I don't have any interest in bilking people out of money that they don't need to spend. If your best move when you hire a guy like me is to leverage my skill set, which is the ability to make some very esoteric in certain instances and yet still very accessible food.
Yeah.
And to do so at a price point that is not the lowest in the world, but is not the highest in the world, and is of great value in terms of what you get for what you pay, and that creates that kind of memorable connection to what you eat.
Right. Well, there was one last thing, if you have time.
One last thing?
Well, I could talk to you all night. I could talk to you forever.
And as I'm sure you're guessing, I can talk forever.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that you are a bit involved with, or at least you participate in, is...
Oh, God help you, dude.
Burning Man. I didn't know almost anything about it until you kind of explained a lot of it to me. And then, luckily, the internet being what it is, I get to be a voyeur and look at all the art installations and cool things that happen there. I would like to hear what that is, what Burning Man is to you, and what your involvement is, because I know that you do you'll have dinners and things like that there, right?
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I do things. You know, you're the deal with the burn is that you, in theory at least, is that you contribute. It's a gift. First of all, it's a gift economy, right? There's no commerce out there.
No,
there's no exchange of funds. You can't buy something.
Really?
Yeah. There's only two things that you can buy: ice and coffee. They sell coffee at Center Camp.
Okay.
Which is still kind of odd to me, but they do it.
Yeah.
And Center Camp is the main. It's basically like, call it the town hall of the city.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So they sell coffee at Center Camp.
Okay.
Other than that, the only thing that you can purchase is ice. It's the only commodity out there. Wow. Everything else is given. I mean, you give whatever you give. Theoretically, at least by the 10 principles of Burning Man.
Which are?
I don't.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I can go into, radical self-reliance, radical self-expression. There's a whole. Yeah. They all run in sort of the same vein.
Okay.
Leave no trace.
Yeah, I like that. And it's in the desert, right?
Yeah, it's in the middle of like one of the most inhospitable places on the planet. It's a high alkali desert in the middle of Nowheresville, Nevada.
Right. And how long does this event last?
8 days, more or less. I mean, in the strictest sense.
Yeah.
It starts the Sunday prior to and runs through the following Sunday, and through Labor Day is always the last day. So it's the week leading up to and inclusive of Labor Day. Okay. Sunday to Sunday plus Monday Labor Day.
Okay.
Whatever dates those happen to fall on.
Okay.
So it's a gift economy. So you give things without any expectation of anything in return.
Right.
So if you're approaching it, I think, with the right mindset, or with the most appropriate mindset, then you go out there with the thought process of gifting something.
Right.
Okay, whatever that is. I mean, it could be an M&M. One M&M for one person. So for my camp, I have, up until this past year, because I needed to take a break, just because it was a ridiculous amount of work, I've gifted a meal plan. I've gifted my skills. So I made a meal plan, and I don't make anything on it. I simply, all of the people that I camp with cover the cost of the food.
Okay.
Not the cost of the labor to produce it, not anything else. And depending on what that has been, in its most recent iteration, we did 3 brunches, we did a pizza night, we did a 4-course tasting, as well as a 4-course wine pairing, a 4-course plated meal, as well as a 4-course wine pairing if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And then a sushi and sashimi night. Sashimi and oysters on the half-shell night.
Yeah.
In the middle of the desert.
I was going to say, and you got a way of keeping them cold.
I did. And so, as a for instance, the cost to you, as we pay dues into our camp, right? It pays for our camp infrastructure, the things that we build, the art installations that we put together. Obviously, all those things, it costs something to produce them.
Right.
The food in that instance is the same thing. So if you bought into everything, meaning 3 brunches, pizza night, sashimi and oysters night, 4-course tasting, and 4-course wine pairing, the sum total of those 7 things was $70 a head.
Get out of here. It's been more than that on a brunch here.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have the capacity.
You're cooking, and it's not
and
Little Caesar's Pizza.
No, it's not Little Caesar's Pizza. It's duck confit and quinoa and griddled nectarines with basil ice cream. And I mean, man, I'm not dicking around. but that's, as a for instance, that's my gift to my camp, is I produce all those things, and I do it for 85 to 110 people.
Right.
And all I ask is that people cover the cost of the actual raw product itself, because I just don't have the financial ability to do that. My gift to the playa every year that I've been out there has been that I bring out fresh lychees with me, fresh lychees, which are amazing. Have you had a fresh lychee?
I don't know. Probably not.
You would know if you did.
Yeah, then no.
So the beauty of a lychee is, right, that it's got this skin that's like an armadillo.
Okay. Like scaly?
Almost.
Okay.
And very rough and firm. And inside is this amazing, super juicy, beautiful, sweet, floral fruit, with at the very center of it a pit that is so smooth it's like black onyx.
Really?
So you have this fruit that can withstand temperature variations and all sorts of weather-induced trauma.
Right.
Because the outside of it is like a flak jacket, and inside is this delicate, beautiful thing. And it's like the most perfectly suited playa food in the world, because the temperature out there can oscillate from anywhere as low as 35 degrees up to, this past year, they were temping out in the middle of the playa at 115.
Holy smokes.
So think about, on a daily basis, a temperature oscillation that in theory can go 80 degrees.
Yeah.
In the span of less than 24 hours.
Right.
At its height, the biggest oscillation that I've experienced was 2 years ago. It was sort of 95 in the day, and it was like it got down as low as 34 at night. It was cold.
Yeah.
34 in the desert is different than 34 when you're surrounded by buildings and structures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, in any event, this fruit is like perfectly designed, and I've never met anyone out there who's brought it with them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to say that there isn't somebody.
Yeah.
There's 70,000 people, roughly 65 to 70,000 people
smokes,
out there now. Yeah, it's a lot. But I bring them out there. I bring a case of them out there.
Yeah.
I order them. My hope is that I can get them, because theoretically they shouldn't be in season by the time the burn starts.
Right. But you've been lucky.
But I bring them out there, and I carry around a couple Ziploc bags full of them every day in my pack. And I will come up to anybody, whomever, I give them to as many people as I can.
Yeah.
There's always one of two reactions. If the person I'm handing it to knows what it is, they're like, oh, thank you. And if they don't know what it is, they're like, what is that little alien baby in your hand? And I'm like, it's a lychee fruit. Here's how you eat it. And you pinch it and you peel off the skin and you pop this thing in your mouth. And then they get the same reaction after the fact, which is, oh.
I gotta try it now. That's fantastic.
It's awesome.
Those are great gifts, because again, it's back to food.
People do all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, they make jewelry, they make shrinky dinks, they make pictures, they take a photograph of you, they sing you a song, they write you a poem. Gifts can be anything.
Yeah.
Right? They can be a hug, but that is always my gift, because I happened on it. It was like, the first year I went out there, it was a completely last-minute thing. Like, I was doing this whole meal plan. It was my first time going out there. I was cooking for 65 people, even though I'd never been out there and had no friggin' idea really what I was getting myself into. And then I realized, with like a week to go in the prep process before we left, I was like, what's my gift going to be for people?
Yeah.
Not just my camp. I mean, what's my gift going to be for people on the playa?
Yeah.
And I felt like in my head I needed to have a gift.
Yeah.
Right? Something to give.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, because that's kind of like the whole way it works. So
it was a natural marriage. It was easy enough to think of. And after the fact, I thought about how perfectly designed it is in the Darwinian sense for being out there. I literally took a lychee and I put it in a place in our camp where I know it wouldn't get disturbed. And I left it there for 3 days. And I let it sit through those temperature oscillations, sunlight and 90-ish degrees in the day, and cold and 40 degrees at night.
Yeah.
And I let it sit there for 3 days. And I came back on the third day, and I peeled that puppy down, and I ate it, and it was just as delicious as it would have been the first day. And I looked at that lychee, and I was like, dude, I love you.
That's awesome. I've always been fascinated by the art installations.
They're sick.
I mean, because a lot of people that don't know about Burning Man, it's a freaking...
It's an art festival.
Yeah, it's an art festival.
Yes, there's lots of drugs.
Yeah.
Yes, there's lots of nudity. Yes, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay? But the long and short of it is, at root, it's an art festival.
Heck yeah.
And the amazing thing about the art is much of the art would be brilliant and incredible just on its own and of its own merit.
Right.
In a place where it was meant to be seen.
Right. But it's not.
The amazing part is that creativity and that heart and that understanding is then manifested in such a way that not only is it beautiful in and of itself as an art piece, but it is built to withstand the crappiest and most intensive environmental conditions that you could ever possibly imagine.
Right.
Whiteout 70-mile-an-hour dust storms, rain, hail, sun, stupid people climbing all over them and beating on them and doing dumb things.
Right.
And it maintains. I go out there and I feel like an intellectual dolt.
Yeah.
The amount of brain power and creativity and sheer just understanding of actual engineering, physical engineering out there is staggering.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Now, you've shown me pictures and I think even a video of this thing that was a giant instrument. I mean, a lot of the art installations are interactive. And if not all of them, I'm not sure. But I
Oh, was that the video of the Earth Harp?
The Earth Harp, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I mean, somebody came up with this idea, and it wasn't yesterday. And they worked on it, and they made this amazing thing. And they brought it out to the middle of the desert to share with their friends.
Yep.
And it's really cool. And the vehicles.
Oh, the art cars are insane.
Man, they're so cool. But I suggest anyone that doesn't know about it, you do a couple Google searches of, I don't know, there's got to be, look up art and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it'll still tell you nothing.
Yeah, oh, really?
I mean, you'll see some things and you'll learn some things. There's nothing. The most effective way I can describe it is between all of the lights and all of the art and all of the visual eye candy and the music. Imagine going to a place where nothing exists.
Right.
Build and tear down Las Vegas in 9 days.
Yeah.
Really.
That's insane.
Truly. You stand in the middle of it on Wednesday when when more or less most of the structures that are going to be there are built. Mm-hmm. And you just think to yourself, what higher power would ever possibly allow this to happen? And in 5 days, it is effectively all gone to the extent that if you walked out there, you would have no understanding or belief that what was there had ever existed there.
That's fascinating.
And it goes away, and then the next year, it all comes back, but it all comes back in a completely different form.
Yeah. Although I got on the conversation about it today because we were talking about art. And about how people have changed and people aren't going to museums as much as certain times in the past,
Sure.
And you got guys like Banksy and stuff like that, and then I'm like, well, Burning Man. I mean, it's something that I'm pretty sure I'm never going to experience, but I get to live vicariously through you. I'm too much of an introvert.
Dude, whatever. You can be an introvert out there. That's the beauty of it. You can be as introverted or as extroverted as you want.
Yeah, it's true.
You can be out there whatever you choose to be. And embrace or not embrace all the things that are out there in whatever capacity you see fit. And no one gives a shit.
Really? It seems really cool. I'd just like to go out for a day and see the art.
It's insane.
Yeah, well,
it is work. It's work to get there, it's work to be there, and it's work to come home.
Yeah.
I will say that. It is a labor of love. It is not a vacation in any way. It's a ball buster.
Yeah.
You got to do some doing to get out there. But it's awesome.
Yeah. I have 2 more questions for you. What is your definition of happiness?
Seeing my kid be the best version of her that she can possibly be.
That's cool. And how do you hope to be remembered?
As Kaya's dad.
Yeah.
And that I did something to help the food insecurity in this country.
Well, I believe you have, or you're going to, and you guys.
We'll see. Hope so.
Again, that's 3squares.org to get more information about that.
Correct.
And kayacucina.com.
Yes, CHAIACUCINA.com. And as far as the 3 Squares stuff, hopefully in the very near future, there will be a lot more tactile opportunity to become a part of what we're doing, either to volunteer or to donate or to, in whatever capacity.
And is there a presence at all on social media?
A little bit, but again, we haven't really had the necessity or the platform.
Right.
To this point. The kitchen is really, this teaching kitchen is really the physical manifestation of all the things that we believe in. And once that is up and ready to go, all of the social media presence, all of the website presence will follow.
That's awesome. Well, again, Adam, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me.
Thank you, Cory.
This has been Chef Adam Kreisel and Cory. Thank you for listening.
Bye now.